A good, pleasant, and godly day to all of you. Welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV, channels 8, and for high definition, channels 250. Plus, you can also watch us via facebook.com/onenewsph, especially for our kababayans and friends living abroad. We are also available through Signal Play app. We hope you will join us this morning or this afternoon if you are on the afternoon shift of Agenda. It's June 30, the last day of June 2021. It's a Wednesday. Let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star to get the ball rolling. Okay, the headline, Duterte challenges Pacquiao. No special session to extend Bayanihan 2. IATF eases quarantine swab rules for vaccinated travelers. COVID cases going down to 4,479. And on the lower half of the front page, let's go down, and there we go, Pacman. I am not corrupt. I am not a liar. Rodi to run for vice president if there's room, and no more Merry Christmas if Delta variant spreads. DOJ chief, no need for vigilante groups. Those are the front page and the headlines, and we will go to that, to those details later in the program. But in the meantime, let's move forward to our stories. Okay, there we go. Duterte challenges Pacquiao. Senator Manny Pacquiao has accepted President Rodrigo Duterte's challenge to name corrupt government officials and agencies in his administration. The senator identified the Duque-led Department of Health, requesting investigators to look into the rapid test kits, personal protective equipment, masks, and other items bought by the agency. Duterte earlier threatened Pacquiao that he will expose the senator as a liar and go against him in next year's elections. Meanwhile, the IATF has shortened the mandatory quarantine periods for fully vaccinated incoming travelers to 7 days. This would include those coming from green or low-risk countries. And finally, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, called for more vigilance against the highly infectious Delta variant. In a hearing, Concepcion told senators that if left unchecked, the Delta variant could destroy all plans to reopen more sectors of the country's already battered economy. And that's exactly what many countries in the world are experiencing. Now, for today's quote, it comes from 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 9 and 10. And it is now one of those inspirational quotes. But I am just sharing this with you so that you will understand that the fight of President Duterte with Manny Pacquiao is nothing new. It is reminiscent of the anger of King Saul towards David, who eventually replaced him and became king. And verse 9 and 10 goes like this. But an evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul as he was sitting in his house with this spear in his hand. While David was playing the lyre, Saul tried to pin him to the wall with his spear, but David eluded him as Saul drove the spear into the wall. That night, David made good his escape. The story behind this is, if you remember, David the shepherd killed Goliath, the Philistine, and when they returned, the women in Israel or Jerusalem were saying, wow, Saul killed thousands, David killed 10,000. So medyo Saul kind of flipped on that, and that was the beginning of his hatred for David, and plus the fact that a prophet of those days, Samuel, had told Saul, the favor of God is gone from you. So, hindi po bago yung mga nangyayari. Yung iba dyan, ginagawang Rocky the Return bout. Go further, biblical tayo. Okay. Anyway, moving forward, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon said the death of former President Noynoy Aquino is not only going to reshape the upcoming elections, but it can also be the driving force for the scattered opposition against President Duterte, which, according to the senator, is one of the reasons why troll farms have been releasing a lot of their produce. Let's now speak with Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning, and thank you for having me on your program once again.
I know you are a very busy man. You are very much in demand. The country is in need of men who have great experience, great knowledge, and knows the history of the country. Now, let me just start with the quotation that I read today and speak about President Duterte's unrestrained ano ba, kumbaga sa lawyers parlance, grave threats against Senator Manny Pacquiao. What do you make of this, Mr. Senator?
Well, I could only look forward when no less my colleague, Senator Manny Pacquiao, has taken this position that indeed corruption is a way of life in this administration. So I hope that Senator Pacquiao, and I'm sure that he will be able to bring out, to back up what he said with credible evidence. He started with the Department of Health, Cito, where the coffee shops are always full of stories about this or that individual close to the administration coordinating the supply of PPEs before. When, even and in the Senate, my colleagues, particularly Senator Risa Hontiveros, complained about the preference given to certain suppliers when news came out of the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management involved in what is alleged to be overpricing of the PPEs and all of these things. And of course, we are aware of the PhilHealth scandal. Maternity clinics were certified as a COVID center or COVID center. So all of these things, for good governance, it's good that Senator Pacquiao brings this out because you relate this, Cito. You know, the departure of former President Noynoy Aquino highlights the hallmarks of his presidency, and that is decency and good governance. The former president took bold steps in order to pursue the policy of good governance, and this has resulted in the Philippines being recognized as a tiger economy of Asia by the end of his term, as against the tag as the sick one of Asia when President Pinoy assumed office in 2010. So good governance is a basic ingredient in any administration, and this is what Senator Pacquiao, in a sense, asserted that because of the alleged corruption that he has cited, then good governance is not the strongest suit of this administration.
Okay, having said that, and I'm sure you saw the video of the president wherein he essentially said to, well, rather than me trying to recall what the president said, let's ask Team Agenda to replay that because I found it very disturbing. Team Agenda, if you would please play the speech of President Duterte. Okay, we will. Okay, there we go.
Do that. I will campaign against you because you are not doing your duty. Do it because if not, I will just tell the people do not vote for Pacquiao because he is a liar. At saka madali parang karabaw na kung saan yung bibirahin pupunta doon. I am not questioning your ability intellectually or what. But pag hindi mo nagawa yan, araw-arawin kita, I will expose you as a liar.
Okay. Mr. Senator, what's your reaction to that? I'm sorry, I don't want to dwell on negative things, but it seems that you use the word decency, and you've been talking about leadership that Pinoy exemplified. Did the president go out of bounds when he said that?
Well, it was probably because of his irritation at Senator Pascual
Pacquiao.
Pacquiao that he went into this. But going beyond this level, it is a serious threat, Cito, a serious threat on the known desire of Senator Pacquiao to seek the presidency. He will say he will attack him, he will campaign against him, and therefore this is a challenge to Senator Pacquiao. This is an attack on his character and the previous statements of the president. He says it was an attack on his capacity to lead this country. When he said, mag-aral ka muna bago ka sumali sa usapan tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. And as I will repeat, this is a challenge to Manny Pacquiao to prove his worth. And he can either sink or be a serious contender in 2022 if he meets the challenge of the president.
Okay, now, do we read this as the administration political group cracking up? Kasi PDP laban, nag-aaway-away sila, and then you have the Sara Duterte party and Sara saying, I'm going to stick with my party, etc. Is this good for the remnants of the opposition? How do you read into this?
Well, I will just quote the president of PDP Laban in today's media when Senator Copo Pimentel said that the PDP Laban could implode, and I'm using his words, could crack, could implode because of this conflict between the president and Senator Pacquiao, between Senator Pacquiao and Secretary Cusi, and that's why I think the good Senator Coco was described it accurately when he said that the biggest political party could implode because of this development, and it's good for us. It's in the opposition and good for our citizenry because then we have we can see a democracy where ideas can be freely debated upon, and this is a challenge, as I would repeat, for Senator Pacquiao to make good his word. Otherwise, he can kiss his presidential ambitions goodbye kung wala namang siya masabing ebidensya o hindi siya maging credible if he cannot approve what he said.
But am I correct that in the Senate, in the Philippine Senate, in the last 6 years at the very least, or I mean last 4 years, there are enough materials to mine? Maraming pwedeng kalkalin na or ipagather si Senator Pacquiao that many of the senators have raised as issues of corruption.
Yes, Cito, you hit it right in the nail. Just a few days ago, the Sandigan Bayan convicted a former Bureau of Immigration commissioners, two of them, and a retired policeman, for bribery, for plunder, 50 million pesos that they extorted from a pogo from a casino operator or something. And what is sad? What was sad about this is that no less than the Secretary of Justice tried to cover it up by saying there is no 50 million. It was only 49 million. It may look funny on the surface, but in law it means that it is not plunder and therefore bailable. But it is good that the good former ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales did not buy this argument and charge them with plunder. And just last week, they were convicted of plunder, sentenced to reclusion perpetua or 40 years of imprisonment. And this is and indeed this was investigated by the Blue Ribbon Committee headed by my friend Senator Richard Gordon, and they indeed recommended the charging of these three characters for plunder, which Chief Carpio Morales did. So, to your question, yes, the Senate records is replete with all kinds of testimonial and documentary evidence, which he can closely and examine in order to shore up his allegations of corruption. But this is up to him.
Yeah, Senator Frank, you're a veteran politician. You're a strategist. You are a exemplary public servant. This issue with President Duterte going after Pacquiao, Senator Pacquiao, there's an adage: "My enemy's enemy is my friend." Uh, Many people have excluded Pacquiao from the yung Isambayan movement because of his association with Duterte. But does this redefine who Pacquiao is for the opposition? Can he now become one of your allies?
Well, we have not discussed that, and I can only talk about the Liberal Party. We have not discussed that. It is a very recent development. So all that we are discussing now is how to prepare in case Leni Robredo throws her hat into the presidential contest. We have decided we are open to alliances should VP Leni not decide against, should VP Leni decide against being a presidential candidate. At this stage, it's too early for me to make an assessment as to how the party will look at Pacquiao. Absolutely no discussion at this point.
What about senators' views regarding, what do your peers say as to who they would put their money on? Kasi Pacquiao is already deemed as a presidential candidate, then Ping Lacson, and I know that there are people pushing you to run for higher office because of your competence, at the very least, vice president. and then of course Tito Sotto, Senate President Sotto. Meron na bang nabubuong sentiment or direction na, hey guys, we need to put our hats in one ring so that a senator will become the next president?
Wala pa, Cito. I'm sure that in your exposure to public issues, you have heard of the statement, 1 week is too long in politics. Mahaba na po yung isang linggo sa politika at maraming nangyayari sa loob ng isang linggo. Kaya po sa akin, doesn't make any sense that we devote our time to this issue. I would rather, Cito, when we start our session in the 4th week of July, this is the last regular session of the 18th Congress. There are a lot of issues pending, at yan po ang aming pinag-uusapan, lalo na po yung tungkol sa budget. Remember that the budget that we are talking about is a budget which will become effective January 1 of 2022, the election year. That is why yan po ang aming pinag-aaralan. Pinag-aaralan ko kayo sa ngayon. How we can make sure that the money collected for taxes are spent properly and not for purposes of the election. Remember, Cito, that hopefully by the end of the year or start of the third quarter, second half of next year, we should be able to start our recovery program. And the budget is a major instrument in the recovery of our economy. We should not be blind. We should not forget this. And this is the most critical period in our history because we have not seen how bad it is in our economy, given the pandemic. 4 million of our people have gone hungry, the highest unemployment, the biggest debt that we have in years on our history, recession, etc., etc., etc. That's why I made this statement. Bakit pa gusto niyo maging pangulo sa hirap ng ating buhay?
That's the question I constantly ask potential candidates. But allow me to bring the show to a quick break. And when we return, let's talk about the money you gave the government, but a lot of it wasn't spent. The fear of many people na baka yung 2022 budget mapunta lang sa pangangampanya or to become a platform for certain candidates. We'll go for a quick break and we'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. We have so many questions, but so little time with Senate Minority Floor Leader Franklin Drilon. Sir, good. Welcome back. And then, sir, matanong ko lang, no, I don't understand the process of budget preparations, but at this point, when you go back for your last regular session in the last week of July, nakakasana ba? Has the national government submitted all their funding requests for 2022?
None yet. The principal instrument or the principal law that will be sponsored in August will be the national budget, and will be submitted when the president delivers his SONA. But talking about the budget, Cito, in the news today is the refusal of the administration to call a special session to enable us to extend Bayanihan 2 because there's a lot of undisbursed, unused budget. And therefore, Malacanang said we will not call for a special session to extend Bayanihan 2. Let Bayanihan 2 expire. Cito, billions of pesos have not been disbursed. Why has it not been disbursed? Because there is no money. There is no money. Cito, remember, the budget is only an authorization. So we authorize the spending in Bayanihan 2, but there is no resources or borrowing that was secured in order to be able to execute the budget authorizations. So, Cito, funds were not released.
Funds?
Because there are no funds to release in the first place. That is why there is so much unexpended balance in Bayanihan 2. And that is why the move on Bayanihan 3 was doomed from the very start, because it's a question of availability of resources and funds. And today, the government lacks resources like anything. Projects are delayed. Many of the items for assistance under Bayanihan 2 has not been released because of budget. The line agencies, Cito, could not obligate the funds or the budget appearing in their agencies because there is no advice of the availability of funds. And therefore, under the law, you cannot obligate the budget unless you have what we call the SARO, or the notice of that the funds are available. And that is the reason why the president does not want to call a special session, because his financial advisors tell him, sir, we have no funds to back up the authorization under Bayanihan 2. So what's the use of extending Bayanihan 2? We might as well allow it to expire today, Cito.
So in the words, sa salitang maintindihan ng marami, parang nagtanong yung tatay, o sige, gawa kayong listahan ng grocery para sa bibiling ko sa palengke o sa grocery. Tapos binigay yung listahan, pero wala naman palang pera.
Tama, walang pamalengke.
Kaninong kasalanan yun, Mr. Senator? This is a serious matter.
Well, ang may kasalanan talaga sa akin, yung mismanagement of the pandemic, Cito, talagang na-mismanage. Kaya we have long periods of lockdowns. The most stringent and the longest lockdown in the world. What has happened with that lockdown? Businesses closed. Millions of our people got unemployed. Over 4 million additional unemployed, if I recall correctly. Millions of families went hungry. So this is the result of our economy in a situation where it is today. And why did we get to this point? It is because of the mismanagement of the pandemic under the leadership of the Secretary of Health, unfortunately. And the original sin, Cito, on January 30, 2020, I repeat that on January 30, 2020, there was already information and verified information that the first COVID-19 case was in the Philippines, brought by a tourist from Wuhan, China. And what did we do? Other countries similarly confronted with a situation like that would close their borders, very close their borders, not allow people from countries or where they came from to come in. Sa atin, sabi po ng ating pamahalaan, huwag nating sarhan, baka magalit ang China.
Mukhang nakalimutan. Sara, sir, kasi pati si Peter Lim nakalabas eh. Yung drug lord, no? Anyway, moving forward, Mr. Senator, this raises a serious concern. If in 2021, we do not have the funds to back the authorization of the national budget, where are we going to get money for the 2022 budget?
People will suffer. There will be no funds for social services. Social services will deteriorate. I'm not speaking in theories, Cito. Look at the program on the ayuda or the amelioration. We could not be sufficiently funded. Why? Because there is no money. And this will be the same stark situation that our people will be facing in 2022 because there's no money to support our social services, our health programs, our social employment programs. Today, Cito, there was a news about the National Employment Program executive order being signed. It's in the news today. But immediately, what is noted is that there is no fund available to back up this National Employment Program that was signed yesterday by the President. And so at bottom, it's funds. And if there are no funds, I repeat, every aspect of governance will suffer, foremost of which will be our social and health services.
Do you see a lot of government employees being fired or going jobless? Kasi the unemployment hit private sector because that's the most disposable. But if in 2022 we are severely critical in terms of the economy, then the government has to cut the fat. Where do they cut the fat? Intelligence funds, employment, mga whatever. I mean, you're the expert, sir. Pasensya na.
There's a lot of excess fat in the budget rather than the employment of our civil servants. I repeat, there is a lot of fat. We don't have to look far. Look at the anti-insurgency budget. That's 16.5 billion to a task force, not even a regular agency. 16.5 billion in anti-insurgency funds. And watch out, that was the 16.5 billion was premised on a 20 million for the 828 or so barangays which were allegedly cleared of insurgency. Watch out, Cito. Recently, that task force said over 1,200 more barangays were cleared of insurgency. At 20 million, I estimate it to be roughly 28 billion. So I will not be surprised if the 2022 budget will contain another anti-insurgency fund of about 28 billion. This is the kind of excess fat that can be cut from the budget, and whatever resources left should be given to our people in terms of social services, in terms of education, in terms of health services.
Yeah, what about the other departments? Will you institute, a lean and mean program or cut the fat budget, such as, Department of Energy, for instance, they're claiming, or their position seems to be they are more regulatory than planning for energy surpluses, etc. And when I spoke to Senator Win Gatchalian, sabi ko, are you going to defund the DOE?
Well, I am not. I have not studied that particular issue specifically, the DOE. Just in general, Cito. I have examined the budget for 30 years. I was chair of the finance of the budget committee for some time in the past. I was Senate president. I have studied the budget, and I must put now a warning through your program, Cito. Everyone should watch out. Next year is an election year. Number two, we have very limited resources. Putting the resources in the right places is critical to our recovery from the pandemic, which made us suffer because of this mismanaged campaign. So this will be next year will be a very, very difficult year. And I am certain that our economic managers are conscious of what will happen. I am certain that they will be, and I hope that our economic managers will not get influenced by the political winds that would dictate on the allocation of the very limited resources that we see next year. Being
So
this an election year.
I presume you are going to put a stop to the creation of the continued construction of the Rojas Boulevard Beach Club or Manila Bay Beach Club and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's, as I said, that could be part of the fact that we should excise from our national budget next year.
Beltran, he remains in a public service position, elected position, and kung sakasakaling may makakonvince kay Frank Drilon na tumakbo for a higher office, he has my vote, and I hope you would consider him because it's not about color. Although Frank Drilon says he's proud to be called Dilawan, it is not about color dahil ako po, ang kulay ko, kulay talong sa itim. Pero siya po he is competent. Marami pong maganda kulay, pero wala namang sinabi, walang alam. Okay, let's go for a quick break here on Agenda. We'll be right back with our next guest, yung pong tigapagsalita ng National Grid Corporation na miya't-miya na lang binubugbog, binabakbakan ng isang dyaryo. Tingnan natin ano pa talaga problema ng ilang tao regarding NGCP. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And just a word of caution, be careful what you wish for. Kasi katulad niyan, nagbanta si Presidente kay Senator Manny Pacquiao na patunayan mo o turo mo sa akin kung saan ang corrupt. At kung hindi, aaraw-arawin kita. Yan po, be careful po. It is in the Bible and I really hope more of you would read the Bible. Do not act out in anger. Kasi pag tayo mainit ang ulo, galit kung ano-ano lumalabas sa bibig natin. Katulad ng mga tao, katulad ni Manny Pacquiao, kahit na anong sabihin nyo, ang daming mga followers and fans dyan. Paano na lang kung biglang magpadalahan ngayon ng mga sumbong ng corruption all over the country. Paano kung biglang iparada doon sa Malacanang truck ng mga sulat ng mga sumbong. And then also in the Senate, like I was mentioning to Senator Drilon, baka parang Bitcoin mining ang mangyari dyan sa Senate. Kalkalin lang lahat ng mga files dyan, lahat ng mga sumbong about corruption. Aray ko po, ayan na ang sinasabi natin. Okay, now in the meantime, again, President Duterte issued a demand to energy players. No more rotational power outages. Ayoko niyan. Yun ang sabi niya no? Let's speak with Attorney Cynthia Alabanza, spokesperson of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines regarding their situation. Attorney, good morning to you. Okay, Attorney, good morning. I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
there.
good morning, Cito there.
Welcome back to the program. And I don't know if it's good, but it seems that the president kind of put his foot down after speaking with private sector representatives and told the DOE, I don't want these rotational brownouts. The question is, who now holds the ball? Kasi parang pinagpipilitan pa rin ng DOE na itong mga paggawa ng surplus o ng mga supply, creating surplus, planning for supplies, etc., is not in their scope of responsibility or job description. Pero it's not in the job description or responsibility of NGCP. Am I correct? Or did that change?
No, that's absolutely correct, no? Because NGCP, we're just the transmission service provider. So, ibig sabihin yan, kami lang yung nagpapadaloy ng kuryente. Kumbaga, yan kami yung highway. So, we make sure that the power that is produced by the generators reach the retailers, which are your distribution utilities, or yung mga Meralco, Sepalco, Aleco, all of these cooperatives in the provinces. So yun nga, no? Ang sinasabi namin is, first of all, the concern started when we had those power interruptions in June and the end of May. And if you look at the numbers, we were at the Senate hearing 2 weeks ago. Si Senator said it precisely. She said, how much capacity, how many power plants are on the grid? She said 15,000. Of those, how much went on outages? Around 4,000. So matitira na lang, 11,000. No? Math lang. Out of that 11,000, how much do you need to run the grid? Almost 12,000. So doon pa lang, makikita mo, kulang na yung supply. And NGCP does not provide supply. Ano kami? Daanan kami. So at any rate, that's one issue that was raised. And, we're willing naman to help. We're willing to be part of the solution. And the Department of Energy said, no, you have to do a take or pay on all your contracts. And
Teka, Attorney Cynthia. Medyo pag nadidinig ko yung take or pay, umiinit ang ulo ko dyan eh. Kasi dyan na hold up yung mga Pilipino several administrations ago na dahil we had a power shortage, what the government back then, I think it was the time of FBR and maybe Arroyo yata, I'm not sure, no? Pero alam ko FBR time yan, the solution of DOE back then was to enlist power generators na nakalagay sa mga barge and generate nila. Pero kung hindi kailangan ng kuryente, nagbabayad pa rin ang gobyerno o ang mamamayan, we're still paying for non-operating generators because of that take or pay provision. Isn't it criminal for us to go back to that again?
Well, it's a good thing that you noted that, Cito, no? Because precisely, if you recall, yung mga take-or-pay contracts na yan yung actually dahilan na ipinasa ng Kongreso yung EPIRA o the law that privatized everything in NAPOCOR. Because NAPOCOR could no longer fund yung mga inutang ng gobyerno to build those take-or-pay plants. No? So that was really the cause of the privatization, and which is why NGCP is here, a private company running a public utility. So now we're directed to go do the take or pay. And while we were saying, we have to study this because there will be an impact on the rates, and then we were told, don't worry about the rates, that's not your concern, So sabi namin, sige, we will do this. But again, we have to be careful because number one, there will be a rate impact. Nobody denies that. The DOE says there will be a rate impact, not as big as NGCP says it will be, but there will be a rate impact. And then they justify it and they say, but the cost of having no power is even worse. Okay, regardless. But we're also saying that doing the take or pay contract does not add additional power plants into the grid. So your bowl of power supply remains the same. So even if we embark on this hurried contracting on firm or take or pay basis, there will be no new power plants. So we might still see a thinning of supplies anywhere between now till the end of July or maybe the beginning of August.
Assuming na lang, Attorney Cynthia, that we actually follow that line of thinking. Okay, sige, let's adopt the take or pay contracts. Sino magtatayo ng mga planta? We will have to go out kasi informant ko, sinabi sa akin, Cito, may malaking korporasyon dyan na marami pa rin nakatagong antigong power diesel generation barges. Baka may mga kaibigan yan sa DOE na pag bigla nagkaroon ng take-or-pay, bigla makita mo lahat yung mga barge na yan sa dagat.
Well, yun nga, ang napapansin rin namin, a lot of the offers for take or pay are for diesel, and diesel plants really are, number one, easy to put up, but also a little bit expensive to run. And on the one side, you realize that they're unable to sell their power because it's expensive. But NGCP, our need is to stabilize the grid. So, it's a little bit more predictable how much of the power we will be needing. It's easier to predict, no? So that's why, we're being now asked to go on the take or pay for these diesel power plants. But NGCP saying, it's not just a simple thing as, going on a contract. There's so many things to consider to balance the grid. You need to look in location, qualification. Are they able to provide the services that we need? Kasi hindi lang yan basta pwedeng kahit sinong power plant. Kailangan tinetesting natin yan. Kung may kapasidad ba sila at abilidad na magbigay ng serbisyong kinakailangan ng grid. So, but anyway, we've been called out for not complying, na matigas daw ang ulo namin. So sabi namin, sige, mahirap na po diskusyon sa mga ganyan. So, sige po, gagawin ho namin. Makikipagkontrata ho kami ng take or pay, pero kami lang po ay meron kaming nailabas na namin yung abiso namin na nakikita namin baka tataas ang presyo ng kuryente at kami naman po wala na kaming choice susunod po kami.
Okay, your backs are against the wall. Government is saying you have to come up with the solution. I mean, like I said, it's not your job, and in the end, you are being forced to undertake the production, the startup of these power generation facilities. But the timeline is how many years?
Well, we're supposed to contract within 30 days, but a power plant is not going to take 30 days. It's going to take anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So yun nga,
who gave you the 30-day timeline?
We were given that ultimatum by the Department of Energy.
Are they going to provide the power generation facilities that can be available in 30 days?
Actually, the policy nga is what NGCP has been trying to say, pero wala akong nakikinig sa amin, no? Na yung polisiyang inilabas nila nung katapusan ng 2019, that was at the end of 2019, there were so many gaps in that policy. And we were trying to say, wait, the policy, so much needs to be clarified. They did release a clarification mid last week, which provides some clarity on how it goes, but there's still so many other items that need to be threshed out. Precisely, na for example, no, if we are in a time of deficiency of supply and makikipag-agawan si NGCP sa needs niya and the consumers, what will happen? Who goes first? You know, so again, there's so many things that need to be threshed out.
Attorney Cynthia, simplehan na lang natin. Gaano ba kalaki at magkano inaabot yung standard power generation plant na kailangan ninyo to meet the needs as per President's requirements?
We need around 1,700 megawatts.
Okay, and how big is a 1,700 megawatt? How many square meters or square or hectare, and how much?
I don't know about the footprint, no, because it depends on the technology. But suffice it is to say that the biggest unit existing in Luzon right now is at around 647 megawatts. So it's twice, 2 times, 3 times as big as the biggest existing power plant in Luzon right now. So it's a huge plant, and that's what NGCP needs. Only to balance the grid, it is not for supply. This is just
Ilang billion yun to put up?
that would cost a lot of money, depending again on the technology. And again, the technology it will have to test pa.
Kasi I don't know if you watched my interview with Senator Franklin Drilon. Frank Drilon just said there are so many things in the 2021 budget and then or the bayanihan, that's not going to happen because wala namang pera yung gobyerno. So here, either you get a bid offer from the outside to construct something, or the DOE has a magic card up its hand to provide you a diesel power generating plant.
Well, they have indicated their desire, or they're asking Senate for the power to build their own power plants. Of course, you know, there's the EPIRA to contend with, and it's just really, you know, energy is not an easy topic. It's not a simple thing to manage. So
you're right, attorney, no? Kasi natatawa lang ako eh. Binigyan kayo ng 30 days to meet the need to put up a multi-billion power plant or find someone who will put it up. It took me several months to put up this 8 by 8 by 10 sound booth here in Lipa. Paano mo gagawin in 30 days dyan unless merong tinatagong alas itong mga tiga-DOE na ito?
Yan nga ho yung sinasabi namin, no, na even if we go on the firm contracting within the 30 days, that ultimatum that we were given, yung take-or-pay contract, hindi po yan makakadagdag ng supply ng kuryente. So yung solusyon, hindi po yan ang magiging solusyon. Kung magkakaroon tayo ng pagninipis, magkakaroon pa rin tayo ng pagninipis, even if we do the take-or-pay. So it's not going to add additional supply to the system. Mag-iiba lang po yung bayaran nyo. Magiging take-or-pay lang. Kasi existing po yung plants eh. No, tsaka kumbaga pigang-piga na ho yung sistema nung mga panahong nawala ng kuryente.
And I think ito natutunan ko ito kay Ramon Ang eh. I remember him telling me, kasi bumibili ako noon ng generator. Sinabihan niya ako, pare, taas-taasan mo yung rating ng generator mo kasi engineer yan si Ramon Ang eh. Sabi ko, bakit boss? Remember, generators only has a full operating capacity or sustained capacity of 60%. Hindi yan porque sinabi mong 100 kVA, kaya mong patakbuhin niya ng tuloy-tuloy na 100 kVA. Asahan mo lang hanggang 60 lang yan kasi hindi bibigay ang generator na yan. So technically, even how much you rate the power generators in the Philippines, they're all at 60%, and now manipis na So, wala na talaga.
Absolutely right, no? So if you have a power plant that says it can make 100, meron pa yung ibabawas na yung tinatawag nilang house load. Siyempre, yung power plant mismo gumagamit ng kuryente, so minus 10% pa yan. And, as the time passes, yung capability niya na gumawa nung remaining 90 is not going to be 100%. So you're absolutely right, around 60-50%. And many of our existing power plants are really aging. Now, sinasabi ni DOE, that's fine, that's fine. We can, kailangan lang nyo mag-take or pay para mainganyo yung mga power plant at may sigurado silang kita para mag-invest sila. Ang sabi namin, the whole idea na NGCP will procure the power for consumption, we're saying that's against EPIRA. Kasi bawal po sa batas na mag-engage si NGCP sa generation activities. We're supposed to be daanan lang. Hindi kami pwedeng mag-supply. Pero ganun ho ang mangyayari. Again, nevertheless, kami ho ay inutusan na.
But do you necessarily have to follow? You're a lawyer. I mean, you can also take it to court and say, if we follow the orders of the DOE, we will be in violation of the law.
Well, that's something that we are carefully studying, and we're hoping that the Department of Energy will clarify their policy. Kasi again, as part of the law, one of the things you do is dapat harmonize lahat ng mga batas, lahat ng mga issuance, circulars, etc. Dapat harmonized yan. One is not supposed to make the other one negate another. So we're trying to say na, right now, as it stands, it seems as if this policy goes against the idea of EPIRA. But we're still conducting meetings with the Department of Energy as well as the ERC to see if there can be a harmonization or a better solution to this, which will not put naman NGCP in a position where we're going to be violating the EPIRA that gave birth to the idea na nandito kami, and as well as make sure that we're compliant with the larger laws ng our franchise under Republic Act 9511 as well as our concession agreement. So
has the DOE given you any assurance or letter that will ensure, protect NGCP from any legal action from government or private sector in the event that you undertake that act which is violating the EPIRA law?
As far as I know, wala pa po. We've just been told repeatedly to comply because it is our fault daw na walang supply sa kuryente.
Madaling magturo. Pag nandiyan dyan na sa husgado, sabi nga nila, doon ka na sa presinto, magpaliwanag. Okay. Attorney Cynthia Alabanza, thank you very much for your time today. Pasensya ka na, medyo naguluhan lang ako kasi nung nabasa ko yung mga articles regarding the hearings, sabi ko, ano ba ito? Pumayag ba yung NGCP? Napilitan ba yung NGCP? So clearly, it's up in the air, and you have to go do your legal work because you do not want to violate the law of the Republic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cito, for having me again. And it's always a pleasure to be given the opportunity to explain things and be heard out. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Attorney Cynthia Alabanza, spokesperson, National Grid Corporation, Philippines. Kung si Senator Drilon nag-warning sa atin, be careful of what next year is going to be like, ako na ang mag-warning sa inyo, bantayan ninyo yung take or pay na yan. At lalaslasin na naman yung mga bulsa natin na kumikita kahit hindi naglalabas ng kuryente, kamahal-mahal na, kikita pa sila, wala naman tayong kuryente. We will go right back. Wala na. We have to go na. Thank you very much. I'm Cito Beltran. That's today's agenda. Keep it here on One News.